When we think about the desert, the first pictures that come to our mind are a place that is dry, desolate, uninhabitable, and extremely hot. And imagine human societies trying to live in such conditions. Well, in such a place, there will be famine, poverty, and diseases. But Australia breaks all these stereotypes while having all the features of a deserted dry land. 75% of Australia is unfit for any human population to thrive. But ironically, Australia is the first world highly developed country that not only has well-developed cities, but it even qualifies as one of the most developed economies in the world. So how Australia, despite being mostly desolate and deserted, qualifies as a developed country, let's find out in this episode of Stories Across. Australia is a huge country which is also a continent situated down under, as they say, in the southern hemisphere. It is so huge, in fact, that it can cover more than 78% of the entire United States or entirety of Europe. Despite being so large in size, Australia has a population of just over 26 million people, which is a tiny number when compared to not only other countries, but individual states as well. Take California, for example, which has a population of over 39 million, and just the city of Mumbai in India, 27 million, which clearly shows that Australia is not a very ideal place for an event like population explosion. But why Australia is so scarce of human population, whereas other similarly developed countries that are a fraction of the size of Australia have immensely dense populations? It's because humans require ideal habitats to survive and thrive. We need a reliable source of water supply and fertile lands for agriculture to cultivate enough food to feed the existing and growing population. And Australia, unfortunately, does not have it. Only 6% of land in Australia is suitable for farming. You see, Australia is geographically and geologically unlucky to support a large human population and urbanization. This map of Australia clearly shows the major population centers, and most of the residents live in these highly urbanized centers only. Almost every major city like Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra, etc. is either located on the coast or near the coast. And most of the cities are on the east and southeast end of the country, except Darwin in the north and Perth in the southwest. The remainder of this gigantic landmass is just a desolate, empty void, famously known as the outback. And the reason for this dry, red-hot void is its unique climate system, topology, and geographical location. Australia is the only country in the world that sits really low to the sea level, with an average elevation of only 330 meters, and the highest mountain peak in Australia is Mount Kosciuszko, which is only 2,228 meters above sea level. And most of the countries in other parts of the world have an average elevation of at least 2,500 meters. Also, most of the continent sits below a region known as the subtropical high-pressure belt. This atmospheric region on Earth mostly has dry air, resulting in little to no rainfall. Also, because there are no major mountain ranges in Australia, only the Great Dividing Range in the east, which is also not high enough to push warm air up high in the atmosphere to condense and form rain clouds. And lack of mountains provide no opportunity for rivers to form and flow down into the flatlands, making it fertile. Australia has a river basin called Murray-Darling Basin that lies between the state of Queensland, state of South Australia, and the state of Victoria. But unfortunately, even this river basin is not reliable and does not carry huge quantities of water that would be required for the expansion of agriculture and other industries that rely on water supply, leaving most of the Australian land infertile and dry. But Australia has a gift. Australia has an abundance of natural resources in the form of gas, coal, and other important minerals. Australia is so mineral rich that it is one of the leading producers of iron, aluminum, gold, diamond, and rare elements like uranium. This provides a very strong export opportunity for the country that helps bring in a large amount of foreign investments, adding significantly to the Australian economy. Also, mineral extraction and processing is a mining business, which requires a huge service and labor-intensive support. This is one of the primary reasons for the Australian economy to be dominated by its service sector. Out of the total GDP of approximately 2 trillion Australian dollars, a massive 62.7% is comprised of service industry, employing over 78% of the labor force. Around 14.6% of the GDP is contributed by the mining sector alone. But Australia is not just natural resource dependent. After mining, the health and education sector is the second largest contributor in the Australian economy. Australia has one of the finest healthcare research and support in the world and also attracts over 200,000 foreign students on an average annually for education programs, generating over $17 billion. A large number of these foreign nationals, after the completion of their academic program, end up working in various sectors in Australia, adding more resource value to the economy. Along with mining, healthcare and education, finance, technology, manufacturing and construction are also one of the largest industries making the Australian economy so rich. And in terms of population to employment ratio, more than 63% of Australian population is employed, making over $70,000 annually, surpassing even the United States, standing at 60% employment rate. Australia may be arid and mostly deserted, but it is a beautiful country with lots to see. From its grand cities to the incredible Great Barrier Reef teeming with marine life to the Australian outback with the famous Uluru monolith and diverse wildlife. It may be really hot for the most part, but is definitely worth the visit. And all these numbers shows the incredible resourcefulness of Australia and how a country, despite lacking favorable conditions required to grow and expand, is still able to perform phenomenally with whatever is available to them. This is Stories Across, and thank you for watching.